Good stuff.
We're live, and it's episode 97. Tick, getting closer to episode 100. And I love how when I start the episode, Kim Possible warning comes from Jay's phone. Incidentally, I am joined this week solely by Mr. Jay.
Hi.
We are short one Tom and one Mike this week as life is getting in the way. Tom's got work, Mike's got other, and we're gonna slug on as we do with just myself and Jay this week. And I do also want to take a second to thank our sponsors over at Hcrealms.com. Check out their awesome website. It's quite the useful tool for those of you who are either just getting in the game or need to familiarize yourself with any number of things. Check out the front page. There's always new articles on the way up to the front, including occasionally Jay's articles. Summing up all the recent rules recaps. Rule recap 18 is still on the front page if you want to catch that before it's hard to find. As well, you can check out the unit section. It's a great way to keep track of your collection, keep track of your teams that you're building, which I may have just spoiled for later in the episode today. Watch the conversation in the forums, see what people are talking about in the game. Use the ROC section to track the nearest ROC event coming up near you. In fact, you can also keep track of all the goings-ons that are going to be goings-ons at the ROC World Cup by simply clicking that link and find out all the events that are going down there. Or you can watch for Amber's regular articles where she's giving more detail about these events. You can also find out usually on the front page where the bigger events are, such as the Michigan ROC over at Eternal Games on October 1st. I know a few people who will be there, and we're got an update to the attendance on that. Which we'll talk about a little later in the shows. We're getting into the conversation. There's also the iTrader, the chat, the groups, the blogs, and most importantly, the shop. Check out the shop. You can also go directly there by realmsgaming.com. It's $5 sale still going on. And while you're getting some of this really, really cool stuff that you can get here, put in the coupon code MARRIED while you're checking out for 10% off your purchase and to go help the channel a little bit along the way. As well, we are also brought to you in part by MajesticCCG.com. The place where you'll find ROC results along with articles written by some major players in the game. Some major players, including Mr. J, who's recently put up an article talking about what he plans on playing in Michigan this Saturday. Spoiler alert, if you're planning on being there, you got to expect this team. So Jay's
I actually have it right next to me in the little baggie.
Louis Gillets. Oh, I couldn't catch it in time. That's okay. But on that note as well, you can catch tournament results such as what we'll be talking about later in the Tulsa ROC, and you'll find out what people played using, what people played with, and you'll find it out almost the next day in some cases, or at least by the Monday thereafter. And of course, articles are also written by a lot of the cast here on the show. Myself, Jay, Tom, and Mike have written articles in the past with it. So keep an eye on MajesticCCG.com. And if you're looking for some of the premium stuff, check out the Apex Insiders. $3 a month gets you access to some really cool stuff, including the Clicks of the Week articles. These team lists that people plan on playing in tournaments are often part of the Apex Insiders content, along with my regular articles where I talk in essay format about things you need to know about the game. But I also speak in abstract, so you're not going to get the direct answer, just the thought process. Think of it like a written metafix, as it were. So once again, that's MajesticCCG.com, and we want to thank them for their support. As well, we do have a big thing coming up later on this week in the channel. Keep an eye on us at facebook.com/marriedwithclicks to keep appraised of things that may or may not be happening or may involve something. That was like the least classy and least smooth thing I've ever done in my life right there. But on that note, Jay, how's your week been?
It's been fine. I didn't play any clicks to the best of my recollection, but I made this because I like Resurrection Man, and this is all the stuff he can do. He can do cool stuff. I put it up on the 2 Clicks page if you want to download that and do fun stuff with all the nonsense powers you can pick.
Yeah, and you made that with Resurrection Man in mind, correct?
Yeah, specifically Resurrection Man, but theoretically you could use it for any pick-a-power character. Well, the problem is that a Mazo can pick team abilities, and that's way too much stuff to put on one page. So, but other than that's what I had in mind pretty much. Him specifically, but I didn't write down his name, so you can just do whatever you want. And Yeah, I have an Excel file if anybody wants it, and they can do what they want with it.
It seems like a neat little tool, similar to what Amber made when in the era of the zombie super scroll, where she had little magnet things to
I still have one of those. Yeah.
Yeah. So all kinds of neat little ideas coming from the community to keep an eye out open, including what Jay just said. Myself, I didn't have a fantastically Heroclix filled week. I didn't even I stopped and I traded some stuff. Most of my playing was with Magic on this Saturday because there was a Magic pre-release, so I got a chance to play that. Talk to some of our regular Heroclix players about some things as well, and helped with a couple rules questions here and there, as I often do. But I did get some fantastic news. And that is, I do have a sitter for this Saturday now, which means both myself and Amber will be in attendance at the Eternal Games Super Qualifier this Saturday, October 1st, in Warren, Michigan. In addition to which, unfortunately, we have lost a body, and Mike will not be joining us this week. He's got a lot to deal with at home, and I hope everything gets sorted out sooner rather than later for him. And I guess without further ado, we should get into further parts of the news without getting too much into our day. And that a lot of that news is in the green variety, and by green I mean the green set, because Ninja Turtles are green and Ninja Turtles are the set. So let's start with the most recent, the oldest of the previews, Miss Rennet Tilly. Now, this one's a super rare, as opposed to the one from the first set, which is rare. This one's also based on the 1984 comic series, as opposed to the 2000s comic series. She's got a special movement power. She's also TMNT ally, future and past keywords. Special movement power. Rennet Tilly can use phasing, teleport, and sidestep. She can use the carry ability, and when she does, can carry up to 4 characters. Then she's got the Scepter of the Sands of Time special damage power on clicks 2 and 4. Rennet Tilly can use probability control regardless of line of fire. When she doesn't have that power, she's got probability control. Her special movement power is on her first, second, and 5th click. The first click having a 12 movement to go with that phasing, teleport, and the sidestep carry. And her powers intermingle in between there. And she comes in at a walloping 55 points. Jay, what do you think of Ms. Rennet Tilly?
I needed to open a thesaurus for her because she is insane, mad, crazy, silly, nuts, and all sorts of other kinds of words like that. Yeah, this is some of the best points you can spend in this game. Just best support with her awesome super taxi with her really good speed and sidestep, so it becomes a 12. And then just regular prob. The pass keyword to go with Devil Dinosaur and or Rick Jones, depending on what you feel like. And then shifts to her Omniscient prob. Also has good damage output the whole way with either Psychic Blast, Charge Blades with prob, or even Quake, because Quake is fun. And those top-down defenses are quite good, especially with the Omni prob, so she'll never be hit from range, hopefully. She's completely insane, and I don't know how this got made, and it's wonderful. And I'm very angry that it's also weird that it's a support piece that's a super rare kind of thing where you don't really get that sort of thing where the Scarlet Witch was a Fast Forces character, and that blew up because of her demand, but you don't usually get support pieces that are this expensive outside of the Casey Chase's short click thingamabobs. So it's interesting but annoying a little bit as far as her rarity goes.
I think if I'm going to accept a support character in the super rare slot, it's got to be one along this line that just does everything, right? It does everything that a support character can do and can bring a little bit to the combat. She's not going to be your main attacker or even your third string attacker, but she can add to the attack. And she brings her prob and she brings the team with her quite quickly because you get that 12 movement along with sidestep. So you can move 10 with 4 characters, then sidestep those 4 characters up. And she's only 5 points less than the 60-point Turtle Van. So watch this in limited play, kind of replacing its big cousin in the Turtle Van, right? Though it doesn't quite do the same thing.
Yeah. I had been saying that the past keyword was really good, but she just puts it over the top with what she can do. Oh, Lord.
She takes the past keyword and brings it into the future.
You're totally a dad, I can tell.
And before I move on to the next character, if you are currently just starting the 2012 Nickelodeon Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles cartoon, spoiler alerts in 3, 2, 1. All right, now we move on to Irma. Now, Irma has a trait. Her trait just basically defines her point values. If Irma is 25 points, she's KO'd if she crosses the red line. If she's 60 points, she's not KO'd when she crosses the red line KO. And next, she's got a trait, the Hidden Krang Subprime. If you've watched the animated series, I apologize for my terrible Gilbert Gottfried impression as I say, stop! Irma can use invulnerability. Basically, if you've watched the animated series or haven't or are interested in why I'm using Gilbert Gottfried's voice, Irma is a little robot suit that the Krang Subprime uses to walk around and infiltrate the turtles, and the Krang Subprime is voiced by Gilbert Gottfried. Incidentally, Krang Prime is voiced by Roseanne Barr. And then she's got that's just Irma special damage power on her first 3 clicks. Irma can use Perplex and doesn't block friendly characters' lines of fire. Now, this is going to be one of those characters that she's an interesting choice for strictly Perplex because she can be used as a bit of a body block in addition to that. If you go for the 60 points, she's a body block that has an obnoxious stop click, which means you have to devote 2 attacks to her at minimum. And even then, those 2 attacks you got to do a bit of damage because the stop click comes with invulnerable, right? And being a Perplex that can body block and not block the character that she's in front of as well I think that's what makes her 25 points is a 3-click Perplexer with Sidestep. Her keywords are TMNT Ally, TMNT Villain, Utrom, Robot, and Spy. So, of course, 2 really good generic keywords, and it can work either as a TMNT Ally or Villain as well for a theme team. What do you think, Jay?
I think I missed an amazing chameleon disguise piece in my article that I wrote that I didn't tell anybody about yet. Other than that, it's interesting how she's kind of really, really good at the 25 points for just Perplex with a decently long dial, mobility with sidestep, meat shield that doesn't block your own characters, good keywords, 2 of which are very, very prevalent, one of which is a Nick Fury one, so there you go. For full points, not as much. I think I wouldn't play her full points outside of said chameleon shenanigans. Because if she's on click 4, stop click, turn back into chameleon, turn into Tim Hunter on click 4, scary stuff. But she's quite a good little piece. And is another Gilbert Gottfried voiced abomination to go with McSaspitlick, so that'll be silly.
Yeah. Pretty soon Gilbert Gottfried you will be able to play the Gilbert Gottfried team one week. So next up, they are making a Fast Forces for this Ninja Turtle set. Did you know that?
I did know that.
You did. Well, and now they've started actually previewing some of the figures. The first 3 were Leonardo, Raphael, and Casey Jones. So let's start with Leonardo. Leonardo comes in at 75 points. He's got the TMNT Ally, Animal, and Martial Artist keywords. Clang, did you say Clang is his trait? When Leonardo attacks only characters at 75 points or less, modify his attack value by +1. When Leonardo attacks only characters with the robot keyword, modify his damage value by +1. And then he's got a special attack power, which he has on his first 3 clicks, the 2-toed kick. When Leonardo hits a single opposing character with a close attack, after action resolve, he can use Force Blast as a free action, and the target is given an action token if it doesn't have one already. Other than that, what you see is what you got on the dot. This is based on the 1987 animated series. Jay, what do you think of Leo?
He looks like all these turtles are going to suffer for being compared to the Chases, unfortunately.
Big shoes to fill.
Yeah. He looks like a good pilot for the van, though, with Empower and good stats. It's good to see that they're doing something different with not just giving him leadership, doing something different at least. The trait will be very effective against the swarms and myriads and hordes and legions of Foot Clan ninja robots, as well as, I mean, it's not like any of the turtles are ever going to beat Krang, but it's a little bit of hope for them. That's all they can ask for. Which is on his own as a close combat character, he's not really that great for the competitive scene, I don't really think.
Yeah, I think it is worth noting though that if he does attack a character named Ultron, who's only paid 30 points for, he does kill it if he does hit it.
That's true.
But yeah, he's again because of the first set and the chases. Anything at 75 points coming from the turtle set has really got to try to stand up to those.
Yeah.
To those.
Yeah, well, the other turtles we saw were 60 points, and the old Nickelodeon ones that were really good were also 60 points. It doesn't seem like they're doing different point values to try and. Well, I guess there's only so many different point values you can do to get them all to fit in 300.
Yeah, and throw in a support or intentionally throw in a supporting character somewhere.
Yeah.
Right? So, all right. So next we move to Raphael, who's also got the Clang. Did you say Clang trait? That's a reference, of course, to when they first meet Krang. But his trait is exactly the same as Leonardo's is in that case. Then he's got a special attack power, break open a fire hydrant. Raphael can use Incapacitate with a range value of 4. When he does, after action is resolved, hit characters are knocked back a number of squares equal to the number of action tokens on them. Now, this Raphael doesn't suffer so much from Chase Envy as it does every other Raphael Envy. And I think this is a Raphael that doesn't really feel like Raphael. 75 points, doesn't have the flurry that most of the other ones do. He plays very differently, let's say that. And by very differently, I mean not as good or not really super great either, in my opinion anyway. He does have some late dial burst damage, but if he's getting shot at, which, in this game you often are, he's not going to stand up to it with those combat reflexes, right? So he's definitely below meh for me, for sure.
His attack power is totally counterintuitive to the whole keyword, where, yeah, it's nice that he has range technically, but then he's knocking opposing characters further away when it's a close combat-based theme. Just seems like they ran out of ideas for him and then just gave up and started making garbage for fun. I don't know.
Incap does have a range of 4.
Right, but I'm saying it knocks them back, but that's counterintuitive to having a close combat-based team.
Yeah. Well, sometimes as well you want to position differently. It could work in that defense.
I guess, and also sidestep, not really great offensive stats, and the close combat expert comes with the wasted point of charge and the incap, and it's just so much bloat.
Yeah. Again, this is one of those things where fast forces, oftentimes there will be 1 or 2 characters that stand out at best, and the rest are just kind of characters to introduce you to a certain number of powers, right?
Yeah, there's going to be one must-buy for sure, and then the rest are going to be meh to good.
Yeah, and the next one is close to a must-buy if you are big on large numbers of characters, and that is Mr. Casey Jones. Now, Casey Jones is TMNT, ally, and martial artist keywords. He's got 5 range. He is 50 points, and he's got but a single trait. Rules are for suckers. Casey Jones' actions do not count against your action total. And that's when you're playing, like I said, when you're playing a swarm team, action total starts to get annoying. And Casey Jones just takes same name at 20 points less. Unfortunately, every Casey Jones they make from here on in is stuck in the shadow of that Casey Jones. So
I like the con version well enough.
The con version is cool, but I mean, what you get for the 30 points on the original one,
especially because the Battle Fury doesn't matter as much because the van can carry despite Battle Fury. So
yeah, exactly. As long as you can make the theme team, which again with the van you're often doing because you have 4 guys with the keyword, and they're usually named Donatello, Michelangelo, Raphael, and Leonardo. Blah 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 blah. So overall, this is not looking as powerful as the first Turtle set was looking, and I think part of that is we got such a great set in the first one, but we've also got a number of figures that we still have yet to see. We've seen the 4 cartoon turtles, Bebop and Rocksteady, but then we've seen 2 characters from the classic comic series that excel, and that seems to be where these turtle sets excel, is when they reference the original comic book series. It's something I'm starting to notice as a trend for this set, and I think I was mentioning it last week too.
At least his fast forces won't be as bad as the last starter.
Well, yeah, I mean
that is not physically possible.
Yeah, I felt like when it came down to it, I didn't like the starter either, and I said if you play it, teach people how to play the game with it, but then never let them use those figures after teaching the players to play. It's a great set. Oh, it's also a neat little board game that stands on its own, but do not take those turtles to a tournament, or you might find yourself crying, or at least without one of those turtles on the map anymore.
Yeah, I remember at Worlds they were running a demo with that particular game, and it seemed like a good idea to me because it was very simple, only standard powers, and it's a license that people are going to be interested in, even if they aren't interested in comics necessarily. So, not a bad idea for that, but otherwise, yikes.
Yeah, what's one of the neat things about the Turtles is the Ninja Turtles are a comic property that was made popular by the cartoon, kind of like the X-Men was. And as a result, you can attract a different group of people, and these turtle sets disappear, and it's hard enough when you have the shipping company going out of business.
Yeah,
that adds to.
Although, didn't they say that they would end up being able to get all the product out? It was just a matter of a slight delay.
Yeah, all the pre-released, every pre-ordered amount. So stores have ordered whatever they're going to get in from the distributor. They can meet those. They said. It's just a matter of talking to whoever they have overseas, or whoever they can get overseas to say, hey, we're taking this from you, deal with it, kind of idea, right?
Yeah.
So, anyway, all that said, there was another announcement that I'm just gonna go over in brief. It's not a huge one, but it is in reference to all these upcoming WizKids Opens, and it was. Just give me a second to find the window here. My professionalism is at peak today, as you can imagine.
Nice professionalism, bro.
Yeah, I know, eh? Do I even professional? So next up, so we have this prepare for the 2016-2017 Road to Worlds. So ultimately, the rough shot of it is they're explaining the way that everything is made up this year. So we're happy to announce that we'll be running WizKids Opens events during worldwide during November 2016 and February 2017, and another round in the US only during May 2017. Now, me and Jay were talking about this very briefly. I want to just, for our fellow Canadian fans, don't worry, because when they say during May, this is between March and May is when our Nationals is. So you got to remember that the US Nationals happens. If it's happening again at Origins, then that's why they get the extra set of WKOs, is to get the extra set of qualifiers, because you don't get like our Nationals where you get the last chance to qualify. You're in qualified, or that's it for U.S. Nationals, and then you have to try to qualify to Worlds outside of that. So beyond that, on top of WizKids Opens, we'll be opening National Champions Canada, Mexico, Chile, UK, Spain, Italy, France, Germany, Central Europe, South Africa, Australia, and Southeast Asia between the beginning of March 2017 and the middle of May 2017. So like I said, this is why we don't get that extra bout of WKOs. Each of these events will have access to all 2016-2017 Heroclix and Dice Masters convention exclusives, including all prizes for and for sale products. On top of all of that, there will be national championship levels for Heroclix and Dice Masters to allow top performers to qualify for 2016-2017 World Championships at Origin Games, as well as many other exciting side events and convention exclusive for sale products. Following WizKids Opens and National Championships events, players can head over to 2017 Origins Games Fair and compete in the biggest WizKids gaming event for a chance to be crowned 2017 World Champion, or simply spend time playing your favorite WizKids side events with friends in an effort to rack up some prizes. We look forward to seeing each and every player at the events this year, so come on out and play the highest level competition with the kids offers. And then they also mention all the consumer shows and events, major events that they plan on having throughout the year. Another thing.
What does it say about U.S. Nationals?
But they didn't say anything about U.S. Nationals, which was probably at Origins again.
Or maybe not.
Well, here's the thing. They're having a ton of WizKids Opens at in the U.S., And an important distinction that they made this year, and Amber has highlighted it several times and copy-pasted it from articles several times for me, is this year they are making the distinct distinction that the country that you qualify in is the nationals you qualify for. So, for instance, if I go to Rochester and qualify for U.S. Nationals through the WizKids Open there, but then qualify as well here, I'm not allowed to use one for the other. I'm qualified in Canada, qualified in the U.S., depending on how I do in each one. So if I actually do terrible in Canada and do well in the U.S., I'm still only qualified for the U.S. National. It's a very, very strict distinction they're making this year, which I think is important because, for one, it caused a bit of confusion. As well, another thing that was worth noting is if you already have a qualification for your nationals, the next person in line in standings gets the next open slot. So if you happen to have a slot in your nationals, you do not take one from someone below you this year. So I think that's an important distinction because a couple of people got bumped out of that in the Canadian Nationals this year. Amber, of course, that was Amber going woo in the background.
Yeah. It's good that you can't hoard them, basically.
Yeah.
I also noticed that there was no Brazil National Championship, and our good friend Tiago probably just started crying.
Well, there's no Brazil National.
Yeah.
I'm not sure about the distance to Chile. Might be his next best bet. I feel I wish it could be held in every country in the world. Let's not lie.
Yeah.
But the WizKids level of nationals does take a significant cash influx in order to run, as the amount of product that you need to get, the number of con exclusives you need to get is huge. At least just to commit to it, and then it's on you to actually run the events that get those gone, right? So it's not an easy undertaking, and finding my understanding is that several countries have attempted, and the venues in interest didn't have the funds to run the big event that WizKids was offering. So I'm hoping soon enough that becomes less of an issue, as the game feels like it's getting bigger from WizKids' side of things. And I think that's an important thing to point out is WizKids is putting a lot of effort into it right now. And that's an exciting thing, right? I mean, what do you think, Jeff?
Good thing, as Martha Stewart might want to say.
Right. And, more clicks from WizKids is great. More clicks from the ROC is great, too. As long as everybody's running the game and we have a chance to play and smile and enjoy ourselves, there's nothing wrong with that, if you ask me. And I just wish, family life has been getting a little bit more insane for me. So unfortunately, I haven't been able to get out to my local events more frequently, but it's something I'm attempting to get back into doing soon, I hope. It's been a hectic month or two for myself. So on that, very excited for that, and also excited for this Saturday, as now that I'm going, I'm super pumped to get out to Warren, Michigan at Eternal Games. Let's just spend before we get into this ROC that happened in Tulsa. Let's talk a little bit about Eternal Masters and the Super Qualifier that we're going to. Are you planning on getting this chance to get that last chance to practice a team that you really want to run at the ROC World Cup, Jay?
Well, I just built the team and haven't been able to get any playtesting done. I did get a bunch of practice with the Wizard variant of the Loki team, which I think this one is better. At this point, I'm very familiar with Loki. I've played Resurrection Man a bunch. I feel comfortable with this team and have some awareness of what I will have to face against and worry. Krang, especially, since that's a bad matchup for Loki, and that is a U.S. common thing that we'll be worried about. Yeah. But I feel like, I do feel like I'm going to be testing this out in anticipation of the World Cup, but I really don't see myself playing something other than this or some variation thereof at the World Cup, just because we'll talk about this more later, but there seems to be a lot more focus on low point characters, and that is good for me. So I feel like this is something that is going to be successful. I feel like this team, I've said this before in the article, I feel like this team is a placing team, not necessarily a winning team, but at this point, I'm okay with that.
Yeah. Okay, I can see that. Yeah. Myself, as I promised last week, I was trying to science a lot more than I have been. Excuse me. Unfortunately, science also involves math and proofs. And a lot of my proofs have unfortunately led to one conclusion. There's about 2 teams that I'm comfortable going into ROC World Cup playing. One of them is the Quinjet that I have played an awful lot, but I have also started losing quite a bit to quite a bit of what's out there science-wise. Running the numbers, running the scenarios, just testing with Amber, running a couple things here and there to beat down on me, and my faith in the Quinjet is somewhat waning. But then, also when I'm building my teams, 3 names start to come up frequently: either Nighthawk Prime or Devil Dinosaur or the Round Table. So if I feel like I'm drifting back into the area of Tom's team, but I've also been talking with Tom about a couple ideas that we can use to tighten it up, change some strategies, offer up some more answers to bigger problems. It all depends on what you're up against. And I think we've kind of come to an area where it's got that extra little oomph that answers one last question that we might not have had the answer to. So yeah, I'm more likely running Tom's team from ROC World Cup at this point, in some of its final extra iterations. Mostly the ID cards have stayed the same. We're just kind of fixing some of the things that we have on the sideboard for it. So
neat.
Yeah. All right. So let's talk Tulsa, because that's one of the last events we have going into this super qualifier that we're going to, that could add some extra definitions to the metagame. And we have a little bit of time. It's just myself and Jay, so let's go full top 8 this time around. Though we don't have to talk about it in great detail. First up, we have Desmond Bostic. Sorry. He's got but before I go further, guys, we do have the live chat now that we're going directly through YouTube these days. So by all means, throw in some ideas in the ROC or the chat, rather, the live chat. Comments, questions for later on in the show. I'll put them in there. We'll try to get them all together towards the end of the show as I get Jay to talk while I'm collecting those. But anyway, so Desmond Bostic has Nick Fury, Devil Dinosaur, a Morlock with Proteus, Pandora's Box at 28 points with Sloth, Lust, Greed, Pride, a Bucky Barnes ID card, along with Nick Fury, Agent's Shield, Winter Soldier on the sideline. His maps were Morlock's Tunnel and Jean Grey School. So what do you think of this one, Jay?
It's interesting. You don't really see Nick Fury as Nick Fury on the map very often, but then you get him and Devil Dinosaur. Devil Dinosaur can run some interference with his various pogs, and that Winter Soldier sniper awesomeness is only 95. He can call him in. You give away some points with the Morlock, but Nick Fury should be more than able to make up for it, and then you get backup of Proteus's range or potentially Pulse Wave, depending on how you want to play it, as well as a second prob. And it has Sloth, presumably for Devil Dinosaur. And then the other relics are there to be cool, I guess. Energy Shield and whatnot. It looks like a fine team. Nothing really wrong with it. It just does stuff. It's a team that does stuff, and stuff is good at done. It works.
Yeah. This is one of those things I think I brought up either last week or the other week, is there's a portion of the metagame that is just a level of put strong figures on the map and play them well. And this is part of that, because you got Nick Fury, who's fantastic, Devil Dinosaur, who's fantastic, and Proteus, who's bound to come on the board eventually, who's fantastic, coming out through the Morlock.
It's worth noting, now that I looked it up, that the probably idealist section of the box to play this on is the first one, the Hunter. And on click 3, you get Force Blast, which can be very useful with Nick Fury, making your opponents have to go far away when they're already trying to play catch-up with his range. Or that looks like Enhancement. Yeah, that's Enhancement. So, Yikes. That's some damage output.
With Devil Dinosaur or Proteus sitting next to him.
Yikes.
Yeah.
Or if you're feeling really brave, or you can try and spin it more. I don't even know if there's anything worth using there. No, you probably just want to stick on that.
Yeah.
Yikes.
Yep. All right. So next up, Ronnie Molina is playing Lex Luthor with 2 Atomicas, Justice League New 52 ATA, Pandora's Box, Gluttony, Lust, and Wrath Relics. And then he's got the Wonder Woman, War Machine, and Shield level 7 ID cards, with the rare Wonder Woman at 200 points, Age of Ultron, War Machine, and Nick Fury, of course, on the sideline. We all, at this point, we kind of know what this team does. But Jay, you're better with ATAs than I am. What does a New 52 ATA do?
+1 for leadership roles,
which Lex Luthor gives, which means that Atomica has a little bit of extra room to throw tokens on herself for props.
Well, that plus when he uses ID cards at the beginning of the turn, he can roll leadership and pull tokens off of himself easier to make sure that he's staying untokened. And then you have 2 probs, so yeah, I can see why that does what it does.
Yeah.
But this looks like George's team, probably the main difference being one of the specific ID cards that he chose in maybe the box.
I think Nick Fury is specific. I mean, the relics look very similar. Lust was a big one for George because he put Lust on Lex Luthor to stay or to be able to run away. And Wrath, of course, will give one of your Atomicas some willpower to keep probbing. And Gluttony, because sometimes indoors you just got to get rid of a wall.
That's also all of the 3 options of combat reflexes. When then you either have Atomica with a 21 up close with plasticity, or a 20 from range. So I can see why that is, how that is. And that's another potential Nick Fury War Machine with +3 damage.
Yeah.
Ouchies.
Oh, that hurts. All right. So next up, Zach Coffey. Scientist theme with Dr. Demonicus, Dr. Octopus with Eclipso, Hank Pym, an Ultron 6 drone, and then Pandora's Box, Wrath Relic, Envy Relic, and ID cards, including Hawkeye, a Shield level 7, and Nightwing with Nick Fury, the starter set, Hawkeye, Ellie, Nightwing, and Morphing Ant-Man's all making up his sideline. I think this is something very similar to something we've seen in the past with Dr. Demonicus making a Colossal who carries Doc Ock to do a ton of attacks. Ultron 6 makes it so that map doesn't really matter, even though the Colossal kind of does that as well. But indoor maps, Colossals do have to kind of maneuver around anyway. And, of course, Hank Pym to make ants.
Well, even if there's a problem with blocking, that's what Ultron 6 is there for, right?
Right.
So that's presumably you're going for prob or perplex on the box on the second section. You get outwit from Doc Ock plus Eclipso for precision strike, +1 attack, as well as Wrath for no shape change. So that's potentially all rollouts that he takes care of.
There is one issue I have with this.
What's that?
Oh, no, never mind. Ultron 6. I'm going to shut up now.
What was your question going to be?
Oh, I thought for some reason he didn't have a Nick Fury out or a Nightwing out, but then I remembered how Ultron drones work. And remember, I know how to play the game.
You're fired. Just get out of here.
I'm here for my looks. Don't forget it.
It looks solid. I personally prefer from results double Doc Ox because that stuff's hard to deal with. Yeah, you have plenty of room for all the necessary Ant-Mans. You have good stuff going on, and your taxi for Doc Ock is probably not going to matter because it doesn't give away points. Looks like a perfectly fine team. And then you also potentially have Dodmonicus has Perplex, +1 attack from Eclipso, Perplexer Prob from the box, as well as Perplex, potentially from a Hank Pym. So that's a lot of smart guy powers to get your stats up good with Perplex.
Yeah.
Looks solid.
I think if anything kind of stands out, it's right nowadays especially, a lot of people see that Doc Ock and know what Doc Ock does. And that means that a lot of people might actually be silly enough to ignore those Colossals, courtesy of Demonicus. And that might bite them in the butt because those things are menacing
Yeah.
to be the most polite, especially since the changes to the Colossal rules, which happened after Nick Fury, which made them that little bit better.
Well, you also what's Demonicus's range even? Because he has mind control.
If
6 range.
I'm not sure. Is it 6 range?
6 range. He can even do some mind control of the Perplex and Prob you have on this team.
Yeah.
It has all the with Perplex and Prob you need. It has all the offense you need. It just does everything that you need, basically. It works just fine.
Yeah. So yeah, congrats to
I've seen his name before in results.
Yeah, Zach is a player whose name is not new. That's for sure. So next up, I hope I'm saying this right. Josu Talamante, playing Krang, Justin Safer, Baxter, Ultron 18.2 with a Justice League teleporter, Shield level 7, Iron Man, Martian Manhunter, Green Arrow, and Firestorm. His Firestorm's 115 point, the 85 point Green Arrow, the Ellie Martian Manhunter, the Civil War Iron Man, and Nick Fury for the level 7 card.
Those are some decent inspirations for Krang.
Yeah,
Firestorm especially, because then he could have +3 attack and damage.
Mm-hmm.
Potential 7 damage pulse wave with a 14 attack.
Yeah. And it's the same, I believe, with Iron Man, because Iron Man also gets +1 attack and +1 damage, doesn't he? Or
no, he's stealth busting
Henry.
and then +1 attack from range, I believe.
Yeah. And, of course, Shield level 7 gives you Nick Fury, so that's strong enough as it is. But it also adds Shield team ability, right? And so the Ultron 18.2 happens to be in the area, and along with Justin Saferd and Baxter Stockman, or even just Baxter Stockman. Baxter Stockman doesn't mind taking the action to give the +1 damage because his free action is what gives him the heal.
He doesn't do any non-free actions, basically.
Yeah. So all that combines to does this feel different, or is this similar to a lot of Krang? Because I haven't seen the Krang using
the pit
teleporter.
crew is kind of the same.
Yeah. Well,
it's a matter of what resource and
traditionally you get 2 Baxters before you get the Ultron, and I think the Ultron is there to engine out the Justice League teleporter. I think it's a little more clever than it looks at face value. I
haven't seen double Baxters. I think I've seen a lot of Justin Baxter, but I don't think I've ever seen a double Baxter.
I've seen double Baxter in the past. I think the initial build of it was double Baxter, and then it disappeared for a little bit. So,
yeah, I mean, I've seen interesting and different Krang builds, and this is a bit different. It works. I like the idea of a sloth relic on him, just for the blanket defense and then healing because he likes damaging himself. So, yeah.
Yeah, and he'll take a turn off here or there.
Yeah. Looks like a fine team. Yeah. Martian Manhunter for shape change is good. Green Arrows +2 attack from range. They're good inspirations to go with potentially calling in the characters themselves.
Yeah. I mean, with the inspirations, there's a chance that oftentimes he probably doesn't need to go whole hog on the damage to Krang itself, which is why he's running the single Baxter.
Yeah. Well, as far as Krang's concerned, he doesn't even necessarily need to make 2 attacks. He could move, attack, come back, and you eventually even have your prob in reserve for whatever ID card you had chosen.
Yeah. There's a lot of this seems very flexible as far as the Krang team is concerned. So it's probably why it made it to the top 8. So next we get into the top 4. Again, congrats to Josu. I hope I'm saying your name right.
You are probably not.
I'm often not. In 4th place, Josh Ernest. This is a name we've seen on the top 4 a lot. Josh is running Gluttony with Eclipso, along with a Resurrection Man, an Ultron 6 drone, a full Pandora's box, a Shield level 7 ID card in the sideline for Nick Fury. He's got a Nick Fury, a Hulk, and a Peggy Carter in the sideline. All his options for a Shield level 7 ID card. And Arcades Arena, Jean Grey School, and Central Park City are his 3 maps. What do you think of this one, Jay? Because
when did Resurrection Man become the most popular D20 character?
when options showed up to just not lose him ever.
Right, but none of this stuff is new, really.
Nope.
This stuff has all been around for a while. I mean, as he said in his article, people aren't using Nick Fury as a permanent character as much, so Gluttony has a little more survivability than people want to think. Resurrection Man with Mystics is something that I was dreaming about playing since the Star Sapphire battery was a thing. But I guess it never just kind of happened until this idea came around. And I'm glad that it worked so well because I'm looking forward to how well my team can perform. Because it's kind of not a dissimilar idea, it's just a matter of execution.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, ultimately, he's again, like you said, he's playing the odds of not having to deal with a permanent Nick Fury. And even though there was one permanent Nick Fury later in the, if you look in the lower parts of the lineup, he probably either didn't have to come across it or.
Nick Fury hates Mystics because his click 2 is no special power, no stealth even. He loses a lot after that first Mystic. So even if he does get that hit, he will then not have the special power anymore, so you have the opportunity to heal back up.
Yeah. So, but it is possible to make that hit count just enough so that gluttony is a non-issue anymore.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But then again, Nick Fury wouldn't even have a 4 damage on that particular matchup.
No, not until Ultron 6 is gone.
Yeah. That's the thing that's the one thing I don't like about the team in particular, that it's a point-and-out team, but it has a character that can totally just die.
Yeah. Yeah, because those Ultrons can be a liability if you're denying points and you happen to have one on there. So.
Yeah, I'm interested to see how that affected, or I guess if that affected his top 4 matchup.
Yeah, it's hard to say. So congrats again to Josh as we get into 3rd place. Paris Gordon, and I love when this happens. Paris is repping his own figure with Mephisto.
You don't see that often enough.
Not nearly frequently. I mean, it happens enough, I'm sure, but it's good to see it in the top 3. So we have Mephisto alongside Double Dinosaur. So he's double champing it up, eh? Little respect to the Team World Champs along with his own fig. He's got Overdrive along with an Avengers Round Table full with a Shield level 7, Hawkeye, Green Arrow, Batman, Nightwing, and Firestorm. His sideline includes the Ellie, Green Arrow, of course, Nick Fury along with Peggy Carter. Starter set Hawkeye, Ellie, Nightwing, Trinity War, Batman, and Ellie, Firestorm. So make your guys great. Watch them suffer.
Yeah. Is this the event he specifically wrote his article that he would play this team in, or is this just he played it again?
I do believe this is. I'd have to double check.
I think this might be he just played it again. I mean, it's a really good team, and we saw an extremely similar team win our Winamap recently. So
yeah,
that variation is quite something with the combination of the contract tokens and characters that don't care about dying.
Yeah. And you got 2 characters that are like Mephisto has that stop click right off of the first initial clicks, and then damaging him in one shot past that requires an enormous amount of luck and build. Like you specifically have to have a specific number of factors go your way and be in your favor for that to occur.
Well, he's just designed so smartly where he's just. He made a lot of concessions in stats to be able to have it as cheap as possible, but have that mid-dial spike. But then he also has the 19 defense regen shape change at the end of the dial. So it's really hard to deal with that Mephisto.
Yeah. All right. So congrats to Paris. And once again, rep your figure. I love it. I love it when they do that. Next, we get into the top 2. In 2nd place, Wes Griffin with the Shifting Focus Superman. World's Finest at 75 points, Superman Blue, 2 Atomicas, the Justice League ETA on all 5 because this is a Justice League theme team, and Pandora's Box with Sloth, Wrath, Envy, Lust, and of course he's got all the Shifting Focus Supermen. So this is one of those situations. I know you and me were saying this World's Finest at 75 is a monster.
That's my favorite dial of that piece.
Right?
Yeah, I've seen it. I remember I played against it at the Whippy WizKids Open as part of Nick Peterson's team. It's just a really, really good figure with monstrous stats.
Yeah. And it's that situation of like, really? Just 75 points?
Yeah.
And then, of course, there's the flexibility of Shifting Focus Superman. And I can tell you from personal experience, you have so many options and can catch people off guard so frequently with this figure. It's mind-numbing how great this guy is.
Well, that's the ATA that gives +1 defense. So this is an angeringly good defensive team, and then you also have blue for no pulse wave.
Exactly. So blue says no pulse wave. What I like to call the chest out or the chest you chest Superman gives +1 defense when adjacent to all of them. I mean, this is a hard brick to get through when they're all initially next to each other, and then the world's finest can come out with 8 damage in a single turn. I mean, what?
It's interesting. Although it's funny how I was thinking recently how the most prevalent pulse wave piece in the format or in the game right now is, I would have to say, Mixie, and Superman Blue actually doesn't affect him at all. Because of how Superman Blue stops damage.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, because Superman Blue stops the damage, whereas Mix's Pitlick just adds the tokens.
Yeah.
So, I mean, but at the same time, Mixie does still have to get through at least a 19 defense on the initial Superman. Yeah. And if he happens to miss that,
they're still 18s. Yeah.
Yeah. Beware of that. That the wall carrying Superman, because he comes up, hits you in the face for 6, and I think even Mixie's first click can't handle that if it gets to the super senses. Yeah. So you got a lot of tough Superman coming out there, and you got 2 probs plus 2 extra theme probs beyond that if you do have to have to deal with that. So overall, it's a behemoth of an output team that can catch people off guard. It's unassuming at its finest, and then adds relics or adds Pandora's box to just beef up some of those defenses on there too.
I just realized that World's Finest is cheaper than just one Superman from the same set with the shifting focus. That's weird.
That is weird, eh?
So trippy.
You know what? It would almost be worth playing 4 of them if he wasn't unique.
Oh my god.
I think that's why he's unique.
Yikes.
Yeah. All right. And then we get in the first place. James Chris has Brimstone at 75 points. Mr. Mix's Pitlick, as we just said. Fast Force Jean Grey. The Atom, along with a Morlock at 10 points. A full Pandora's box. And then he's got an Ant-Man ID card with Age of Ultron number 3 Ant-Man. That's the one riding the ants, right?
That's Size Changer, a.k.a. the best piece in that set. What's an Ultron? Who's Ultron? I never heard of him.
Yeah, so this is that case, like you're just saying, Mr. Mix's Pitlick is fully capable of doing a ton of obnoxiousness with keeping you from making actions, along with a Morlock who will eventually become Proteus. And then you have the Atom to punish your opponent for being your opponent. And then I believe the 75-point Brimstone, correct me if I'm wrong, is that one of the ones that starts with that pulse wave from 6?
Yeah, he has the pulse wave and poison special powers to start.
Yeah. So, I mean, and he starts that with 75 points. That's insane.
Yeah, plus sidestep for the extra mobility. Yeah.
Yeah. So overall, this is a really great, well put together team with a lot of things going on. This seems to be happening where a lot of teams in the first place we're building a lot of numbers on our teams, and those numbers are coming with a ton of options.
I don't see how this team beat the second place team.
Well, for one, like you mentioned, the Mr. Mix's Pitlick must have been nailing just about every pulse wave against the defenses, even as it were, because it is still most of these. It's like 18 on blue, 19 on the Atomicas, 18 on World's Finest, or 17. I'm not sure.
18 with reflexes toughness from the special power.
Yeah. So and then 90 the 90 points, so 19. So I mean, if he was dinging
it's a lot of non-Mixie pulse wave on the team.
Yeah,
between Proteus and the Brimstone.
Yeah, so chances are, and here's another thing that could very well have happened is Brimstone could have got a shot off on the Superman instead of going for the pulse wave.
Yeah,
and possibly. It does just take 3 damage to get rid of that Superman.
Yeah.
So once the 3 damage is done to blue, then pulse wave your life away, right?
Yeah.
So,
well, plus you have Pandora's Box plus Proteus. So that's going to be 20 defense. There's no Nick Fury there to have to get rid of the special power. So that's a 20 with Prob. The Superman team has 11s, maybe 11s. It's not necessarily going to be able to hit those 20s. So see Proteus just alone being a big thing to have to deal with.
Yeah. So, yeah, and so overall, it's just it had options in which to deal with the Superman Blue. So, I mean, the Superman Blue alone wasn't going to fully stop his team. All right. So, with all that said and done, anything else you want to go into before we get into our teams, Jay?
Anything but our teams because
Were you not comfortable building with Miss Aurora?
I did what I usually do at this point, which is build and then begrudgingly acknowledge that she has to be on the team and then just build other stuff.
All right. Well, before we get into talking about our own teams, I do want to remind everybody that if you want to support us directly, not specifically through our sponsors, check us out at patreon.com/marriedwithclicks. Right now, it's still in its skeletal form, and we do have a big overhaul that we're working on right now. We're planning out for it, and hoping that will entice everybody to start getting a little bit more interested in it, get a little bit more interesting stuff going on the channel. But beyond that, we also have some more interesting stuff on the horizon beyond that. It's just, anything that we can get to, get you guys more interested in supporting us a little bit more. But, we planned some shows initially, and then the distance between myself and most of our guys outside of myself and Amber has been a little bit restrictive. So if we do anything with the team on this show, it will be more live content for that, and we're kind of working on that as we go. But in the meantime, let's talk about our teams of the week, and our team of the week is using Miss Aurora from the Alpha Flight OP kit. Now let me pull her up so that we can introduce the lady of this evening, not the lady of the evening, as we all know what that means in old people language.
Kids show, right?
All right. So Aurora comes in with a 10 movement on the first 2 clicks, 9 movement on her last 3 clicks. Her attack matches click for click. 17 defense with toughness on the first 2 clicks. 16 defense with super senses in the last 3. She's got some leak dial, flurry. She has 65 points, no range. She flies, not indomitable. She got the Alpha Flight, Speedster, and Weapon X keywords. Her real name is Jean-Marie Bobier. She's got a special movement power, moving too fast for you to breathe. Aurora can use hypersonic speed, and when she does and hits a standard character with a close combat attack, you may choose to deal no damage. If you do, after action resolve, place the hit character in a square adjacent to Aurora and give it an action token. The idea, of course, being that you go out, grab somebody, bring them with you, and make them suffer for it. So I'm going to start, if you don't mind, Jay.
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. So my idea here.
What the hell did you do?
Was to punish you for getting hit by Aurora. So what I've done here is I've taken. So I got Aurora, of course, the figure of the night. Jean Grey from the Fast Forces, the one that gives you the free action TK. We've got the Chase Raphael from Team NT, the Chase Michelangelo from Team NT, and then I brought along the Little Monkey Henry and the Colossal Adam at 15 points. Now,
modern limited, so no Adam.
Did I say that? Did I say? Okay, so double Henry. There's a second Henry on the team. So 2 Henrys. You fucker. Or even a Warlock. It's somebody with power. Because the idea here, Jean Grey throws out some Aurora. Aurora comes back with a treat for Raphael, Michelangelo carrying Henrys to come in and flurry a ton of damage upon. Raphael has flurry with all his attacks dealing penetrating damage. Michelangelo has flurry with all his attacks adding action tokens. So, of course, the first attack was all you're going to need with Aurora already throwing an action token on the opponent. And it's just a matter of making Aurora work. Now, here lies the problem with this team. Aurora's got a 10 attack. which means on a 17, she's hitting on average if you're lucky. So what happens when Aurora misses? Well, you get her back within space that Jean Grey can TK her from, and you come back and wait for your opponent to come back or to move a little bit closer to you while you clear Aurora. If you do happen to hit and do happen to get that Aurora off, feed her victim to Raphael, Michelangelo, and Henry's, or whatever empower you choose. The idea is you do a ton of damage to one thing at a time, and I roughly said this is a kill box, and that's what you do with Aurora, or also from Civil War, you have Speed Freak you could do this with as well. So that was my idea with it. Jay, what did you do with it?
I did a not dissimilar team in terms of idea. I begrudgingly put Aurora on the team to start. And in the current modern, one of her better keywords of her few is probably not actually Weapon X, because Speedster is probably better, but I don't care. So I did Aurora to start, and then I did, oh God help me, Omega Red, because he has a not dissimilar get over here power. Okay.
Get over here. Is that what you're looking for?
Yeah. Sabretooth and Wildchild are also Weapon X. And then what did I do? I had points left. I threw on the Ross X-Men ATA, which he will not be able to use to pull tokens off, but you'll be able to get the extra actions from leadership still. And then because you're popping off Wildchild. And then 12 points left over for whatever Hulkbuster part and whatever shenanigans you want to just add on top of this really, really terrible, no good, very bad team. Oh, dears.
All right. Well, and that's the thing is these characters do take up a chunk of the points, and in some cases they don't necessarily meld with a team. And, I mean, when we get to them, a similar effect could be pulled off with North Star that also adds damage if you work it correctly. But it does require a fair bit of positioning and certain things to go your way, as it was. So, yeah. So those are kind of our ideas. The kill box, as it was, is probably the first instinct you want to go to, because those of you who played in the Nightcrawler days know that that's what you did. You fed somebody courtesy of Nightcrawler to your team, and then your team just went to whatever happened to be unfortunate enough to be in your face. I think in the early days of the team base, one of the closest things I've ever done to beating that team, one of the team bases, was Nightcrawlering it next to me. It's like, deal with this now. And of course, none of my attacks hit, so that kind of went all wrong on me. All right. So, it's a short week this week because there's only just 2 voices. So hopefully your voices add a little bit of bulk to the show this week. As we enter the fan questions. If you do want to enter a fan question, check us out at facebook.com/marriedtoclicks. You will see a link to the show. Put your questions under those. Or, if you happen to be watching on YouTube right now live, that chat right there, throw it in there. Throw a question in there. We'll try to get to it. It doesn't look too busy, and I've seen a couple questions pop up in there already. I should be able to manage it this week. Pretty soon I'm going to start adding and making these guys moderate the chat. All right. So first things first, Mr. Christopher Motherland. I've got a fun event coming up, 200 points, no resources, relics, ID cards, or possession. Must be 2 figures and 2 figures only. Modern age, ATA's legal. What would each of you guys play off the top of your head? Jay, what would you play if you had a choice? 2 figures, 200 points.
Rick Jones and Superior Spider-Man for exactly 200.
Yeah, my thought was it was because I saw this earlier. The first one that came to my mind was Green Arrow and Harley Quinn. It's going to hit hard.
That's kind of an accurate team with Injustice.
Yeah, it's going to hit hard, but don't get hit, please. And if you do, let Harley Quinn take over because she will take over. Yeah, those are the first 2 that came to my mind. So next up, so we'll do that. Jared Buffington, can you break down how to beat the Ultron Swarm teams? So instinctively, there's a number of ways to do it. The Ultron Swarm is susceptible to Psychic Blast, Energy Explosion combinations. Now, there's only a few of them in the current game, and that would include Lady Thor, if I remember correctly.
No, she's just Energy Explosion.
Is she just Energy Explosion? I thought
She has Energy Explosion with all the improved targeting, but she does get bonuses if you have a resource or relic attachment.
Okay. Or multiple damage pulse waves also go a long way. Mrs. or Mixes Fitly can lock them down and in 2 turns just say, okay, we're done with this.
Don't forget Living Lightning, which is not a sentence I never thought I'd say.
Yeah, Living Lightning has also been a thing. Quite a few people have been playing. There's been a couple other Super Qualifiers I've seen results for where Living Lightning has taken a top 8 position because he's planning to see Ultrons out there. And for those of you, just so you get an understanding, Living Lightning has this Fryer Flash Circuits trait. Living Lightning can use Energy Explosion. When Living Lightning hits an opposing character with the armor or robot keyword, increase the damage dealt to that character by 2. Now, the reason that's important is that damage dealt increase means if he happens to use Energy Explosion in conjunction with his Psychic Blast, the damage dealt means that the 3 damage on the Energy Explosion is actually increased because the 3 damage is dealt in the first place, and then you increase the damage dealt after it's considered to be dealt. So 5 damage Energy Explosion is massive if you're attacking an armor or robot. Now, if you happen to be attacking just in general with Living Lightning, given the current swarm-based metagame, he's got 3 targets with his Energy Explosion, which is part of his trait. So he's traded Energy Explosion with 3 targets that starts with Psychic Blast and Running Shot with 7 range. So if you math that all out, that's 7 range. If you do that, let's say we do it to Quinjet, who often has 3 or 4 characters next to it. Penetrating damage to all those characters, with the exception of the Quinjet, unless you've outwitted it ahead of time, that's 3 plus another 4 times 3. That's a lot of damage, right? So Living Lightning is definitely a hard counter to the robots, but if you want the overall combination of it, what he brings is a lot of the part of it. But the other part you got to be careful of is those big colossals, because you get those attacks off on big Ultron groups. That's great. But then you've got to deal with colossal retaliations in many different forms. And then whatever colossal retaliator is in your face, you attack that one. Then whatever, because oftentimes you'll see combinations of Solaris and Brimstone, multiple Brimstones even sometimes coming out there. So Brimstone can colossal retaliate at the beginning of the turn, do his attack if you happen to be poorly positioned to multiple characters. But if he also happens to base multiple characters when he does that, he can add in a penetrating poison at the start of the turn. So you got to be careful of what you're seeing. One of the keys I'd suggest is probably go for the Colossals first. If you can get them both, fantastic. If you can't, then work your way through them one at a time. Or make the Colossal retaliation have to be worth it, and kill a ton of Ultron robots right off. Right? These are kinds of things you got to look at, because Living Lightning is being brought to do the Energy Explosion to large groups, and it's not just specifically Ultrons. It's just that much stronger against the ever-present robot team. And, of course, another character who happens to have the robot keyword being Krang, Living Lightning is ready for. Anything you want to add to that, Jay?
Be prepared to hit the 19s of the Solarises. And try and play some point denial so that they have to, when they, are we seeing a lot more? Are we seeing more ID cards with these kind of teams, or are we seeing more boxes or other stuff?
We're actually just the way I've seen it, it's been just a ton of drones.
Oh, okay.
All right. I mean, sometimes you'll see boxes, sometimes you'll see round tables, but I think the strongest, most oofy ones we've seen have just been drones and colossals.
I like what I saw at the U.S. Cup of Krang plus a Brimstone and a Solaris, and then a Mercury and an 18.2. So you had a little bit of everything. Worked out pretty good.
Okay. Sorry, I'm just kind of. There's a conversation that broke out there. I was checking if there's anything we need to add to this. So hopefully, Jared, that answered your question the best that we can. There's a number of options. It's just a matter of careful play. Does play a certain part into it, and weighing retaliations as it was. Next up, Matt Wallace. What's up, guys? So since Mixies is back, back on the radar, is there any figures that kind of left the meta for a short time that also might make a comeback, such as Turtle or Engineer? Also, is it possible the meta shift we have is only temporary, and by the time October is here, everyone's going to switch back to using the Quinjet? I'm sure there'll be a number of people still using the Quinjet or a slingshot round table like Tom's team, but do you think it will come back hitting a lot harder? Unfortunately, have to grind through the entire tournament from day one, and the Super Qualifier will be interesting to say the least, with the chance of playing against a 400-point Quinjet team as if 300 wasn't bad enough. You guys rock. Hope to see you all in Atlanta. Well, the two guys who are going to be in Atlanta happen to be here. That's for sure. The meta shift is up and down. I don't think we'll see in hard numbers, yeah, we'll see more Quinjets because we're going to see more people at Rocktober. But as far as percentage, I think the Quinjet is going to start to taper off. And when we get to see the top 32, top 16, there'll be a couple Quinjets in there, depending on how matchups go. But the slingshot does do a number on it. As you mentioned, Tom's slingshot does quite a number on it these days. And it's one of the harder matchups for it, along with, I do believe, Kevin's Frogman, Mix's Pit Lake, slingshot options as well, also drive it nuts in addition. As well, a number of double dinosaur builds are just absolutely obnoxious to it that I've seen. So the Quinjet has a lot more hard matchups now than it used to in some of the combinations that have occurred. And only a few of them have actually fully been affected by Spider-Man. But sometimes it just takes those little bits, those little umphs from a set to kind of go, well, let's shift things ever so slightly. So I think we've seen the reign of dominance the Quinjet has had, and though I don't think it's something you don't want to consider anymore. Be ready for it still. If you can beat the Quinjet, you can beat a lot of things on top of that. Anything you want to add, Jay?
Yeah, just with what's out there now, I don't really see the Quinjet coming back as much as showing up by sheer math of people are going to play it, and it's going to show up in number. There are going to be a lot of people. Therefore, you will see a bunch of them. But it was already slated to be the big thing to be prepared for, and that it did win Worlds. So people have been preparing for it, and I think that Jason and I have just decided to not play it, if only because it's the thing to beat. So playing the thing to beat is not necessarily the smartest move.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's really hard to play the bullseye team, the one that everybody is going to beat, if there is a number of answers that you've seen or a number of answers that you have to it. Because if you're playing the target, you're not the only one often playing the target. So either you have to be the best with the target, or you have to beat the target, right? And the Quinjet is the target right now, because if you can kill the thing that has a ton of support or can get through 14 clicks of health, is it 14 or 17?
17.
17, sorry. If you can get through 17 clicks of health, well, you can get through a lot of clicks because each click only has 11 possible clicks that it can actually healthfully take, unless it's a full dial with a death condition, right? So that's one of those things to kind of think about in your head when you're mulling about a team. Plan for the Quinjet, but if you are planned and ready to beat the Quinjet's not the only thing you're planned and ready to beat. So next up, Chris Stockhouse. Sorry to hear Jason can't make it to Michigan, but I hope I can get a chance to sit down and talk and take selfies with everyone else this Saturday. I may have a surprise gift too. Surprise! I'm coming to Michigan. I don't think I have another insightful discussion topic like I have the last couple of weeks. Instead, here's one of the several teams I'm looking at using in Michigan. Quinjet with Resource, a Sloth, Ultron 6, 5 IDs with the Atom, Iron Man, Level 7, Red Tornado, and Firestorm. I've only had a little practice running the team, but it's pretty straightforward with what I want to do with it. Quinjet positions Sloth to the most effective position, summon everyone effectively. For me, it's between this team, Tom's team, and a robot drone swarm team. Probably won't be able to decide until Saturday morning. Safe travels for everyone heading to Michigan this weekend. Which one of those would you run, Jay, if you had the option to present with the options that he gave you?
Right now, I do like Tom's team the best because I think the round table is probably one of the better ways to go, and it also comes with a really good character to run with it with Mary Marvel. Whereas drone swarms can give away a lot of points, and it like the Quinjet, it's one of those teams where you can end up accidentally losing if you lose track of the math. I would lean towards the Tom team myself, then the Swarm, then the Quinjet, as far as my feelings right now.
Okay, yeah, and I'm kind of in the same boat because I'm actually going to be playing that team. For one, I don't have multiple brimstones. For two, Tom's team has an answer to your colossal retaliation, which is you can't. Trust me, I've looked at it and said, I can't colossal retaliate you. You evil genius, you! Was my exact reaction when he did it to me. So, I think we all kind of like Tom's team as it is, and we're quite shocked that we haven't seen it more frequently, to be brutally honest.
Well, it's just really tempting to run a Jean Grey Ultron.
Yeah. Yeah. Because
and there's not so much more that Mary can call out with her extra points that an Ultron can't.
Yeah. All right. And Matt Wallace, to answer your question, talk to me in Atlanta. I might bring a couple extra things just in case for borrowing purposes. But I don't have an extra one. He knows what I'm talking about. All right. And then we have a question here from Pedro Roca. Will Mr. Mixie be the new ever-present piece like Nick Fury? How soon till someone gets a full incapacitate lockdown team with the likes of Mixie, Silk, Sloth, you name it? A dreadful thought. That is a dreadful thought, but it's a very slow outcome or outlook as far as the team is concerned. And you really kind of have to make those incapacitates hit after the pulse wave from Mixie is hit twice. It's one of those things you've really got to make work to a certain degree, and Sloth doesn't necessarily have the move and attack to help with that. Though, of course, if you happen to be playing with a Pandora's Box, he does have some sidestep, and his, I believe, 8 range with 3 targets, or 7? No, 9 range.
8.
Is it 8?
No, I'm pretty sure Sloth is 8, but I can check.
Yeah, I'm kind of pulling him up right now because I want to know. I know it's a big range.
It's 8.
Yeah, it's 8 with 3 targets. So 8 with 3 targets with a sidestep becomes basically a 10 to swing. Triple target, incapacitate. I mean, if you're following it up with Mixie or following it up after Mixie, go for it, right? And if you can make Silk work as well.
There is one slot on the box that comes with blades, so that could be fun as a backup.
Yeah, because then he gains Blades, Claws, Fangs, and that 12 attack with blades is oof. Yeah. I had a Red Lantern team at one point that used I did that with where I used Lockjaw to get in the face. And it's like, okay, so now that I'm here and you can't take certain actions, guess what? Here's 12 attacks with blades.
Yeah, it's interesting that you don't see much free action limitations now, but Sloth is still a factor or a thing that exists that can potentially punish you for doing more than one action of any kind.
Trying to science with Sloth is interesting. It's fun, but it's not 100% trustworthy because oftentimes you get in there, it's like, I got it. What do you? You're attacking me how many times in the current metagame? It's it can get a little crazy. You got to be very careful with him. It's not an easy thing to make use of, and you got to follow it up with something. In my case, the original idea I had Lockjaw and Alpha Primitives and Maximus and Red Lantern batteries, kind of pushing along a ton of damage. I don't think we have anything to that contingency at this point. Though we do have Ant-Man and Vanishers and Overdrives and all kinds of things that carry a ton of guys. So there's things. Make it work. It can happen. Of course, don't force it, as I say. If it's not coming naturally, just might not be worth it. And don't hurt yourself trying to come up with it. Jay, don't give me that look. Anything you want to add to that, like the idea of the full incapacity team?
It seems I don't like relying on gimmicks as much as just pure damage. Mixie has a 10 attack with that particular those clicks, and you can only do it so many times in a row before he just takes too much damage to continue with the colossal push. And I don't know, I'd just rather have reliable damage than just, then I'll incapacitate you, and then I'll do other stuff, and then other stuff. Especially because there's some colossals now, and they can do actions even if they're pushed. So Maybe if facing like a Krang, he can just go colossal and then still do stuff, and he's a big threat. And there's nothing you can do about that because that's just a trait. So, yeah.
One thing also worth mentioning though is we're very close to it with Kevin's team because never underestimate after Mix's Pit has done enough damage with his pulse wave. Let's say he's done it twice, he's done 2 damage. There's some characters that are now 2 damage away from dying. If you happen to catch those characters on a building and you have Frogman, knock them off with a building. They've done that 2 damage after they've of course cleared. Now that you've knocked that guy on those 2 clicks, they're now KO'd, and the rest of their team is now action tokened again because you've found a way to kill somebody with Frogman.
Frogman is such an innocent character. That's so dark. The places we've taken him to, he pushes people off of buildings.
Oh, I wasn't going to be the one to force knockback off of buildings, right?
That could be an obnoxious. That could be obnoxious to run with Danny the Street, especially with the movement limitations. Even when you can move, maybe you can't move upstairs. Maybe you fall down some stairs. You never know what will happen. A lot of elevated.
I can't believe I'm going to say that. In that case, it's one of the only time where you say, wow, I'm glad Frogman has leap and climb.
Oh, my God.
All right. Next up, Alkino Haynes. Hey, guys, what do you think is the best team using Kingdom Come pieces? Have you put any thought into this?
Well, the Green Lantern is almost the cheapest barrier, so he's just good to run. You could probably get a good mystical team going with Spectre. They all have Future, and so does Resurrection Man. I don't know. There's always the idea of the Mixie combination with the lower point KC pieces to force the change with forcing your opponent to crit hit. That could be obnoxious. I don't really see so much specifically using KC pieces as much as them just adding stuff to other teams. All of the lower point value ones are good. Well, almost all of them at least. They're just good pieces to add on to a team. And as far as the tentpole parts go, it's not the best environment for tentpoles right now. So that's probably more of a thing for post-coming retirement.
Yeah. Also, some success has been met with the ones that are mystical keyworded, and I believe that includes Spectre, Green Lantern, and Shazam.
Yeah.
I believe actually there was a successful team with Shazam as the beat stick and
as the temple
supports, right? So
yeah,
there's potential in there.
Spectre is just amazing in general with his essentially prob the whole map.
Yeah, because you get to you can place them anywhere, and then if it's in the middle, it's 12 range can go everywhere.
Mystical is just a good keyword. Spectre can go on a mystical team, make it better. Shazam is a decent one as well. Just throw those guys on mystical teams and make them better, and then have good secondary dials if your opponent crit hits.
Add Clarion. Stir. Watch your opponent's face.
Yeah.
All right. I do believe there's last call for questions on the YouTube chat. Last call. All right. So that's it for this week. Another short week. And we're leading into a ROC Super Qualifier this weekend. So that's probably a good thing to get a little bit of rest throughout the week as we've kind of made our decisions on our teams, get focused, get the brains going towards that direction, and get ourselves ready to go. Plus, Amber and myself do have a lot of work this week. As like I said, we got a surprise this weekend. Really looking forward to it. So, like we said, watch us, watch the channel Facebook, or watch the channel's Facebook at facebook.com/madewithclicks for your updates to find out what's going on with that as we throw little subtle hints at you until the actual release of that awesome video that we're going to do. Amber's looking at me like she's trying to make sure I don't give too many details about it. And on that as well, I do want to thank our sponsors again, Hcrealms.com. Check out the shop while you're there. I got a bunch of cool stuff. 24/5. Oh, wait, hold on. Somebody's calling me out for not answering a question. Oh, okay. So we got Philip Houston. Sorry, I didn't read that as a question. He's got a team. Quinjet, at 140 points. I'm guessing with the resource.
Yeah.
Ultron 8 with Eclipso. He's got 5 ID cards, including the Hulk, Iron Man, She-Hulk, Captain America, Thor. 60 points to put Eclipso on. And he's thinking the Shifting Focus, Batman, the Beast Super Rare, or Captain Cold from the OP kit. What do you think? Isn't Captain Cold from OP kit only 60 points?
Yeah, he is only 60.
Yeah, that's right. What would you do there, Jay?
Eclipso on the Ultron. That's...
Well, no, sir. He's got Eclipso and the Ultron. I don't think the Eclipso is actually assigned to the Ultron.
It doesn't make any sense because Eclipso is like 200-something points.
Well, he's got Eclipse. He's paying 25 for it. He wants to know what to put it on, Jay. Listen to what I'm saying.
I'm tired. Of all of those, Captain Cold is one of the better ones because Beast only starts with regular outwit. Although Batman is versatile, I don't know. I just don't see any of those particular figures working so well. There's so many 60-point characters that could be really awesome.
60 points. I've discovered this recently. 60 points is a really good number, and you get a lot of options. Specifically, like we said, with that chameleon. And since we're gonna try to keep the Ninja Turtles out. Oh no! By November 5th, Ninja Turtles is out. Irma. No, I'm just kidding. Reddit Tilly would be a good support figure for that, but is she worth an Eclipso?
Of those options, I would probably go with Captain Cold because Enhancement's good, Barrier's good, Wildcard is good, and Eclipso can make him a little better, I guess.
Yeah. There's also the option of like Sunfire.
Yeah, Sunfire, a lot of options.
Sunfire and a Thug. Although that doesn't leave you any points to add on ID cards, my understanding. I don't because I kind of want to add some more ID cards there too.
Yeah, I don't. It's not very many ID cards. That kind of just doesn't really mesh with the idea of the Quinjet. But that's also the max number he can have with how many characters he has.
Maybe go with Sunfire and a Thug because Sunfire is a good 50-point character with Running Shot and Pulse Wave that could really use the help of Eclipso. And he's not a super victim to Nick Fury. Yeah, nothing wrong with Running Shot Pulse Wave.
Obviously.
Yeah. So let's try that.
Sure.
Yeah. There, you see, I talked to Jay into agreeing with me. I love it.
Whatever you want, man. I'll whatever.
All right. So we're still brought to you in part by Hcrealms.com. Again, check it out, Hcrealms.com. While you're there, check out the shop. Check out all the cool $5 items that you can get your hands on, and then put on the coupon code MARRIED for 10% off of your purchase. As well, we're also brought to you in part by MajesticCCG.com. Check out MajesticCCG.com/Apex-Insiders, and check out that $3 per month awesomeness that you can get. It's a really cool access to really cool articles written by some of the greats in the game. Some really good minds put their hearts and souls into it, and move on. Get some great ideas flowing. Get the juices going as well. Jay, you got a couple articles actually on there, don't you?
Oh my god, I have so many articles. I don't even remember. Okay, let's go to the list. Rules recap was last week, so going to be coming out next one this coming week. Although there were like barely any rules questions this time. I just got up my team article. I'm not going to spoil it. It is free. It's good. Read it. I had a Ragdoll article last week, which was or 2 weeks ago or whatever, which is the common that Tom prefers, and then I have one coming this week that's going to be the 50-point gravity feed one. I will have a Chameleon's Disguises article of my favorite disguises to run with him. Rules recap next week, and I think that's everything. I've been doing a lot of Majestic stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm still in the midst of that, deciding what to write on the next time. Although every so often,
if you ever do anything
with an idea. I do have a couple articles on the go, but fleshing them out has been really difficult. The way I write it is really hard to just kind of go. Sometimes I do have an idea that I just kind of just tickety go with. Other times I get these dead points, and it's usually when the metagame is kind of at a point where it's semi-solved. And right now it's pretty close to solved because Superior Foes of Spider-Man has now been out for a little over a month now, or at least it will be by more than a month by the time we get to Atlanta, which means we're at that point where there might be one or two figures nobody has really kind of put the effort into, but outside of that, I think we're at that solving point. So it's just a matter of making the choices that you're happy with. So again, I'm working on it. I promise.
Well, I think everything's out now that's going to be except for the Batgirls. So
yeah, everything that's out that's going to be there with the exception, like you said, of the Batgirls is out. So work away, guys. Choose your teams now because nothing new is going to be under the sun when we get there and have some fun. I forced that, and I shouldn't have done that. And I apologize to everybody for that. And of course, check us out again at patreon.com/Heroclix. Check in next Monday, and I'll just make a quick mention of it when we're on the show. I should have a full revamp of the Patreon and our goals and what we plan on doing with it for the future by then. So the notes are coming, and next Monday is my due date. Now Amber has to be on top of me to get that done, or just on top of me. It's up to her. We're married now. Don't give me that look. Otherwise, thanks, Jay, for joining me. It's just you and me, and great mind, great voice, great thoughts. Anything you want to say on the way out?
No. I've suffered enough being with you all this time.
Yeah, I'm a terrible person, and my puns are the worst, especially if you're young and you don't have a old man buffer of Tom and Mike. Hopefully we.
I love bad puns, but you're. I'm gonna have to do 10 hours in the car with you.
10?
Yeah, I think 8 to 10 in that somewhere in that range.
I guess it depends on how fast it is going through customs.
Oh my god.
Anyway, guys, I want to thank everybody for watching. Thank you to all the live viewers. If you're watching on the archives, you guys are awesome too. And see you guys on Saturday in Warren, Michigan at Eternal Masters Games. I'm trying to be clever and give all the details, and the page is closed, so now I feel silly. At 26,051 Hoover Road in Warren, Michigan. We'll be there on Saturday at 11 a.m., if not sooner.
Oh, God. Getting up at 6 in the morning on a Saturday.
I'd sympathize, except I have kids, so deal with it.
That's your choice.
All right. In any case, folks, for those of you who are planning on going this Saturday, or even if you're getting ready for Rock Cup Atlanta, or if you're even waiting as far as your WizKids local WizKids Open, always remember that practice makes your team better. Have a wonderful evening, everybody.